I said I'd come back to Olympia. I think it would take $1 million.
So wait, I just thought about something. What if I got a GoFundMe started?
No, I don't want to take money from the fans.
Why not? Fuck it. If I can raise $1 million, will you do the Olympia?
You know what? I'm not lying, bro. I would like to do this Arnold Classic in 8 weeks.
Live, and we're take 2.
Yeah. So we just went through this whole. Man, I was on a roll too.
I know, because what the fuck, man, this dumpy computer.
So we were just talking about welcome back to the Cutler Cast, guys. The tremendous response we had. We just launched Phil Heath video. Mm-hmm. We knew it was going to be a banger. We knew. You actually said to me, and I didn't believe you.
Really?
I didn't believe you because, you know, obviously we was having some hitters. We had on here. We had Brian Shaw. You know, we had a lot of like great talent, and we just got done with the Olympia week, which was crazy. And you know, we did a couple
6
other people.
podcasts.
Yeah, so we've been super busy, but your response has been tremendous. And for you guys that don't know as much about Phil Heath, you know, that episode, it was lengthy. It was our longest one ever.
2.5 hours.
And it's just off to the races. That, I mean, you were correct.
What did you think that?
You said this is going to be our fastest climber. And you know, sometimes it's really hard to predict media, because I'll do a post on Instagram or I'll launch a YouTube video and I'm like, this is going to be a sure hitter.
It's
and
garbage.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then the funniest ones, you know, the ones that aren't as appealing, and maybe it just catches traction, because algorithms make a huge difference, right?
Of course.
So that's why I always encourage everyone about their content. Don't get discouraged about outcome sometimes.
Just
you know, don't sit there and watch always. But, you know, little background on Phil Heath. Like, I know a lot of people have some differences on what they thought about Phil, basically, because he was a dominant champion, and usually dominant champions are looked upon as when they know they're going to win and they're as good as Phil Heath. You know, sometimes they get a little confused on whether it's confidence or arrogance, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about the movie and everything with Generation Iron, but, you know, to go back, I met Phil in like 2005, and he was just, you know, obviously had great potential. But what I really admired about Phil in the very beginning was his attitude, was his work ethic, was his vision. And that's really what made me state, this is the next Mr. Olympia. Like that, we talk about the mindset, but a lot of people get confused on that. Yeah. Like Nick Walker, I've been raving about him. I just saw him in the gym actually before I came here. And I talk about, he's convinced 100% he's going to win the Olympia in 2023. And you know what? I can't bet against him. You know, I believe it because I was the same way. And I remember all the guys would be like thinking Jay's crazy, he's going to beat Ronnie Coleman, but I knew I was going to beat him. Yeah. And that's what I love about Phil. Like, he wasn't arrogant in that sense. He knew he had to improve, but he waited, and then he placed third at his first Olympia. And he, you know, fell back a little bit the next year, and then he placed second to me. Yeah. And I mean, he never looked back, right?
Yeah.
And you were able to meet Phil. You know, you came and stayed with me for the 2007 Olympia. You flew out last minute because I said I need help. And you came out and, you know, you met him for the first time then, because he wasn't competing then. He was qualified.
Yep.
He qualified in, I think, 6 and 7 he qualified.
He sat out both years.
Yeah.
Yep. I met him he came by briefly to look at you, but that was the first time I had any real interaction with him in person. And, you know, we became friends ever since then. And when I left the music industry, I started helping Phil around 2012, 2013. And when I left the music industry in 2014, he was the first person I went full steam ahead and managed him. So I knew the reason I knew the podcast was going to do so well is there's a synergy there between the three of us.
A lot of history.
Yes. And it's like we spent so much time, like I've known you for 20 years. I've known Phil for 15, almost 15. And we spent so much time all over the world. Like Phil and I went all over Europe. You and I have been all over Europe, Australia, Asia, India. We've been everywhere. So you just have a certain connection with people. And I knew when we sat down, it was just going to be organic, and it was just going to be a conversation. Because there's a difference when you have a conversation with somebody and when you are interviewing them. It's just a different energy, and it comes off more authentic. And that's why I knew that that one would do well because there's so much information there that we could dissect it and do a year's worth of shortcuts from it.
There was nothing in that interview with Phil Heath that you didn't know, right?
No,
I mean, it's so funny. We've sat in bullshit, like we've been on every level, right? Whether it's like competitive side, relaxation side, and like the partying side, like being in nightclubs and everything else, right? I mean, you hear all the stories, but that was really cool to just kind of connect with him and kind of like reminisce a little bit. And obviously that's been a big hit for us. But, we want to wrap up 2022. I gave my intake on what I thought about the Olympia. Like I said, I agreed with a lot of the judging. The situation with the venue, and, I did talk about this a little bit. Like it's been on and off since, the pandemic, right? Like last minute it got thrown to Florida, and then, we talked about it coming back to Vegas. It finally made it back to Vegas. Awesome stage. Backstage a little smaller than what the athletes would have liked, hearing more and more people coming forward after we spoke about that. But like I said, someone reached out to me from the Olympian already, hey, we're rectifying this situation. Obviously next year in Orlando, it's going to be a big thing. But the problem is how do you have a year like 22? 22 was the most publicized. Number one, it was the longest season.
Yeah. Okay. It was over a year.
Over a year of qualifications. Record number of contests. Record number of competitors, but record number of new faces coming in that potentially
could do some damage.
And we mean damage top 10, and you had...
There's guys that could potentially win that came on this year.
And we talked about, I'm going to just throw out a couple names, and I'm not going to get into every single one, but main guys being Michael Crezo and Andrew Jacked.
And Samson was his rookie.
Yes. Yeah. Like we talked about, we knew he competed earlier in the year, but a couple of the unknowns that Andrew competed, as we got closer to this, season of the Olympia, and we saw potential in both, right? And they both produced. I mean, Andrew did place better than Crezo, which we expected, right? Yeah. But at the same time, Michael made an amazing transition from another organization and into the main organization, right?
So not only was there guys that made their first year, but there was several guys that this was their second, from Nick to Hunter, where they were guys that were talked about as a guy who could win. So there was 4 or 5 people in there that were still the unknown.
And Derek Lunsford.
Derek Lunsford too. So
coming from 212, and
there's 6 guys there. And now even looking at 2023, it's kind of going to be the same thing still, because Nick is looking, he went from 5th to 3rd, and he's looking to move up. Hunter's probably looking to redeem himself. Derek's looking to move from 2nd to 1st.
And then it opened up the 212 for Clarita to win the title back.
Yep.
Or, possibly a Kamal to win the title back, right? And here we are. Clarita, congratulations on new baby, by the way.
Yep, congratulations.
We're going to talk a little bit about Clarita because we know he's coming, right?
Of course.
And he's already made kind of an announcement. But it's crazy because 22 was one of those spoken about years, and we talk about, was it the most competitive Mr. Olympia of all time is the question. And me coming from an era where people look at it as, ooh, that was like the ultimate. I mean, I watched the battles of Leverone and Wheeler and Nasser and Dorian and all those guys. Like top 10 was loaded, right? Was it the most competitive? Because a lot of unknowns. That's the question.
I think on paper it was the most competitive. I think the unknown aspect of it, but when you actually saw the guys on stage, I think there was more hype than what it turned out to be, because there was only a small handful that were really delivered. Like I think the top 3 100% delivered.
Dude, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That was just crazy.
Yes.
The loaded, 8, 9
And
places.
the crazy thing is, if you redid that show a week later, it might not be the same places.
Yeah.
There could have been, a guy in 10th or 11th or 12th that could have moved up to, they're that close. So I understand on that aspect, the fact with how close these guys are, I don't remember it being that close where guys went from the top 6 and got pushed out of the top 10, but they could next year be right back in that top 5 or top 6.
I know, but this is my question. Okay, we're gonna cross over into 23.
Okay.
Okay, the first contest of the year.
Okay.
Arnold Classic.
Special one for you.
Yeah, I mean,
you have a record there that a lot of people don't know about.
Remind everyone my record, please.
You won 3 in a row.
Consecutive, yeah.
That's a legit three-peat. It's not 3 titles. It's 3 back-to-back-to-back. So nobody else has ever done that.
I know, but a quick turnaround time now. So, you know, we have I think it's 7 weeks now. Mm-hmm. It'll be this weekend, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so
it's the first week of
7
March.
Weeks from now, everyone's in Columbus competing. Yes. Okay, yes. So
hypothetically, we should have an insane lineup.
When is the list getting launched?
Day after tomorrow.
Okay.
So we're going to launch this podcast tonight.
We know right now Samson
has came out publicly.
For sure.
Yes.
Clarita?
I think Clarita has, I don't know if he's hinted it or if he said it. Like I've seen other people talk about it.
I know he wanted to do an open show. I know he's talked about that. I mean, it was a lot of back and forth whether he...
The only guy from the top 10 that I know for sure is said, I'm doing it, is Samson.
Well, Milo spilled that beans.
Yes, Milo said that. So we'll all find out on Friday, but I know Clarita...
But does someone like Derek Lunsford, like, is he a front runner if he decides to do it?
Of course he would.
I mean, Nick Walker, returning champ. I know he's on steady mode right now. I just saw him in the gym. But
if Nick did the Arnold again, he would be the front runner to win it.
Okay, so let's go over the prize money.
Okay. The prize
money.
So
when I won it, 02, 3, and 4, early 2000s. Tells my age a little bit. 100,000 Hummer truck, Rolex 1 year, Audemars 1 year. I think 1 year there was no watch. I think the first year it was just the H2 Hummer, which was the first one, and then 100,000. So I was able to win. That was the second. It was the second highest paying show. I think the Olympia paid 110.
Yeah, it was a little bit more. Yeah,
but it was actually more than the Olympia because they were giving away the H2 Hummer. Now, the Olympia started giving away an Escalade. You remember this?
They did that for a couple years, right?
So it was somewhat similar, but I felt the H2 Hummer was worth a lot more. I sold the first one for $65,000. The day I got it delivered to San Juan Capistrano, GM dealer, and I sold it that day. I transferred it.
It's not a bad chunk of change.
No, so it was great. So let's talk about the prize money today.
This year, first place is $200,000. Second place is $120,000.
Hold on, $200,000.
$200,000. That's a down payment on $1 million house. 20% down. That's a down payment on $1 million house. Second place is $120,000. Third place is $70,000. Fourth place is $37,500. Fifth place is $20,000. And sixth place is $12,500.
So when I was second at the Olympia those years, I got 60 in 01, and then I got like 75,000. I think the last one maybe I got 100. So it's paying more than, obviously it's 20 years later or whatever.
And you know what I've always wondered too, because like sometimes guys will skip the show, and I've always wondered why would you not do a show? Look, not everybody can be on every time. Why would you gear up and spend all this money to do a show to win $10,000 when you can do the same thing and go win $200,000?
I know, but we're missing the whole point. Is it's a huge opportunity because
okay, let me take a step back. When you won $100,000 back in 2002, 3, and 4, what did you do with the $100,000?
It's funny, when I placed second at the Olympia in 01, I won $60,000. Okay. Which was a huge plus for me. In 2000 was the first year I won Night of Champions. I bought my first house with the $15,000. Okay. But bought a condo in Aliso. I paid $218,000 for the house. I put down a down payment. Then I went, to the Olympia and I finished 8th. I got $14,000. I remember these numbers. And then I went on the tour and I won like another $20,000 just on like multiple shows. So I was doing well, right? I mean, I looked at it as like, wow, I was able to pick up some. So end of
that was more than a year's salary.
Listen, I'll be honest. I was in debt a little bit. I moved to California. I had some stuff that I was paying for. I mean, I had $14,000 on a credit card, and I remember when I was able to pay that thing off in one shot. So I get rid of all debt. And then, so anyone that thinks I came automatically with money, I think I had 50,000 in my bank account, but I needed, I always needed a cushion. I wasn't making a ton of money at the time, right?
Yeah.
So I go to the Olympia in 01, put all my eggs in one basket, place second, win 60,000. Then I roll right into the Arnold Classic, okay?
And I remember you saying you just stayed on your diet.
Stayed on my diet. Fortunately for me, I was on a rebound phase, and, I was at a big body weight, so I was able to still eat a lot of food. Won the Arnold, came out to Vegas just on a whim to visit Nancy and Trevor Smith at the time, which I, speaking to Nancy the other day, saw their house, saw the opportunity, put a deposit, $10,000 down on a property. I was building a home, finished in July, moved, skipped the Olympia that year. Okay. And then I bought one rental property, 2002. Okay. I was able to have some money. I didn't do the Olympia that year. And then I bought 7 homes in 2003. But my year started with Ironman, Arnold, San Francisco Pro. Then I did Olympia, and then I did all the tours after Russia.
That was the one when Fedorov.
Yeah,
Ronnie and Fedorov.
So I bought 7 homes in 2003, and I flipped a couple or whatever. So I invested in real estate, and when you get those big paychecks, it's a huge stepping place.
Of course.
Like, when you get 10 grand here, like, that's okay, right? But when you win 100, I won 60 the year before. Back then, remember, I could put 5% down on a home.
Yeah.
And I was able to flip. I was making 100 grand on a house that took me 3 months to basically build, and I was flipping it and making 100,000. I was doing that over and over. I mean, like I said, I bought 7 in 2000. I ended up keeping some as rental properties, so I had residual money. Back then, it wasn't. I wasn't versed enough on tax havens and everything else. I didn't like being a landlord, but at the same time, that Arnold Classic money gave me a huge plus. Because at the time, remember, it was actually up with the Olympia. It was the same money. So I'm getting more guest appearances. Like, that's what the Arnold allowed me is, I was staying in better shape all year and competing in the early season than the end of season. So there wasn't a big gap. But that carried over and be like, oh, he won the Arnold. I mean, second best show in the world. The guest posings were just endless. So I'd guest pose all the way up until I started my prep, and I'd cut everything like 12 weeks out.
And how much, if you were to get, I mean, obviously you don't know exact numbers, but what would you say on average when you would go get, like, how much would you make a week?
3,000 to 5,000 on a guest spot, but I'd sell merch too. So, I mean, I could sell up to
another 1,000, 2,000.
Yeah, probably $2,000. I mean, back then you could sell 1,000 just in 8
so
by 10s.
So you'd make 5,000 to 7,000 every week,
every weekend,
and that's just.
And it was like, what it turned into for me? We talk about contracts.
Yeah.
And you see this today because this is still the same situation.
Of course.
It was like guaranteed every year. So as soon as I guest appeared, the promoters were so happy with the condition, the time I spent with the fans, everything else, the accessibility I had, they would rebook me. Because I stayed, remember, I was second, winning Arnold's, so I was right there. There was no one better other than Ronnie Coleman. So we were going back and forth, and sometimes they bring us in together. So that battle between the two of us turned into the greatest ever of all time.
Yeah.
But it was selling tickets to put people in the seats because we'd battle all year on stage off season, and then we'd get on stage. Obviously, he was victorious more than I was. But I was still winning the Arnold, so I was getting the respect that way.
And I think the other thing, too, that I don't think people I don't think the young bodybuilders recognize this. They look at your popularity now, and they don't see the 20 years of work that came up. Mm-hmm. You can go back to 2003, and you did an appearance in Idaho. You probably met 500 fans. You spent time with every one of those people. Every one of those people got an experience. Every one of those people have an impression of you, and they became a fan for life. And they're probably still a fan to this day. So stuff you did 15 years ago, every hand you shook, people are still buying stuff from you. They're still supporting you, to where a lot of these guys now, they don't see those opportunities. Yeah, and they're only digital.
And they have a better outlet to connect with people. Like back then, I would sit and do those emails, or early on, writing letters. you know, the DVDs obviously brought people in. It would show people the lifestyle a little bit and see how relatable you are. Remember, that's the people that are going to follow you are the people that say, hey, there's something about that guy that I see an opportunity for myself, or I know someone that's like that, or, you know, maybe they're just like, hey, that inspires me to achieve, right? And it wasn't ever like, hey, I want to be the next Jay Cutler on the stage. There was some. I mean, I remember when Nick Walker's parents used to bring him to come see me, you know, and here this guy is.
I still remember the first time we met him in Philadelphia at the Philadelphia Fit Expo. We're like, who the hell's that kid?
And I love, you know, I love that he's inspired by what I did because he's on the verge of greatness right now, right? And he's there, but he's like, he's really cementing his name. And he has the world at his hands that I didn't have because the communication is so much easier now.
Of course.
He's got his own, he just started the podcast, and, you know, he has the opportunity to be number one featured. He's one of the freakiest bodybuilders ever. He's got clothing brands. He's endorsing, you know, HD Muscle and all these other great brands that are using and utilizing him, right? Young LA, Celsius. I mean, he's with it all. So I just love the fact that there's so much more opportunity for these guys, not just to go out and only guest pose, because let's be real. The guest posings are kind of few and far between now. It's more meet and greets and let's raise
People
awareness at expos.
Yeah.
Yes.
I still remember when Nick won the Arnold, not this past one, the one before. I remember beforehand, he had a couple 100,000 on social media. He put that video out, I'm going to win the Arnold. Well, I think Real Muscle did it. And they put that video up, and Arnold posted it on his personal social media. And Nick's gained like 400,000 or 500,000 followers from it. That's 400,000 or 500,000 new people that are now following you that you can make a living from. Yeah. It's a huge opportunity to do the
You know,
Arnold.
it's kind of funny because these interviews I did, and Dave Bay will attest this, and I hope Dave's listening to this. He would always interview me and say, 4-time Mr. Olympia. And what would I say?
3-time Arnold Classic champion.
Yes, because, listen, the Olympia is the elite, right? There's nothing bigger. I'm never going to disrespect that title. But I was very, very proud to win the Arnold Classic. Arnold, he inspired all of us, right? And he didn't inspire us only on the stages, because realistically, I didn't get to see Arnold actually compete as much. I mean, from what I know, he won one of the Olympias with just himself.
Yeah.
No real competition. You know, he won 7 Olympias, but he was just one of those people that, like, you know, you talk about there's no such thing as impossible. Arnold I think he was destined for, you know, proving that anything
You know what's
is
crazy?
possible.
I was thinking talk about what it was like back when you were winning those Arnolds, because
Arnold coming on his stage.
He was an A-list. He was the biggest name in the business.
You know, it was crazy because he would do these releases. He would do this to start off the show, and he would show the latest film he was working on. And every year he had a blockbuster film, right? Whether it's True Lies or when he played Mr. Freeze and what's Batman movie or whatever. You know, he always had a character he was playing, Kindergarten Cop. So his aura on the stage, like him walking through the expo, like, remember the crowds of people, man. Like,
even now, it's just.
I know, but it was just at a whole different. He was. I hate to compare it, but like Dwayne Johnson a couple years ago when he was like the action guy.
Yeah.
Arnold was bigger than that.
Of course he was. He was the number one actor in the world for a long time.
I kind of remember.
And he was at the Arnold Classic.
I remember someone said at one point, and correct, I may be wrong, right? Hopefully Arnold will watch this interview. He was the highest paid actor at $10 million a year at that point. This was forever
25,
ago.
30 years ago.
Yeah, so, and that was a huge number, right? I mean, he was one of the highest paid. So for people that say he had little acting skills, he was the highest paid because he was just a sight, right? I mean, he had the personality, he had the physique. Like, that's one of the things, man. If we had, like, The Rock's known for his body, right? He loves bodybuilding, but what if The Rock wasn't such a fitness enthusiast and was just, and he looked like Bruce Willis or Steven Seagal?
He wouldn't be where he's at. I think the physical stature matters.
The physical, I mean, we talk about Chris Hemsworth and these other guys, right? They all have physiques. I mean, Van Damme, to me, Sylvester Stallone, they all had physiques. I loved Seagal, and I loved, I loved these type actors, but they didn't enthuse me as much as the Schwarzeneggers or Stallones. I mean, remember, I always said I started because of Stallone and Van Damme,
Rocky,
right? Yeah.
I watched Rocky 4.
Yeah, so
randomly.
So, and I liked Mr. T. You know, he was good too. Carl Weathers was great. I used to see him in Gold's Venice. But man, Arnold has that. It just has such that aura, being part of it, and we remember it was elite. So it's the only real invitational, high level event.
It's actually the only invitational.
Okay, so
because the Olympia, if you win a show, you get automatic.
And I'm not talking about the other divisions, which I apologize, because the Classic in this contest is going to be stacked up, I'm sure. You know, we have a lot of guys competing and a lot of new faces and a lot of young talent, right? So my expectations going into this, Arnold, I would expect, obviously not Hottie, because it's hard for him to get there. Anyone internationally, but Rami, Derek,
Bonnick.
Samson, Bonnick,
even
Nick Walker.
Nick, I mean, that's any one of those, like Nick or any one of these other guys, that's a $200,000 payday.
It's funny you say that though, because you say Nick and $200K, because it's like almost like, hey, you're going to win this thing, right?
I mean, he's already won it.
Yeah, and he's third best in the world, arguably.
And him and Derek would, if they both did it, would definitely battle. And then Samson would be in there battling, and Brandon, if he was going to be doing it.
If it was me, I would hold up a few more weeks. You could have ate for 2 weeks now. I mean, after 2-3 weeks, man, you're like, hey, that wasn't that hard. Yeah, ever do these trips, like when we go overseas and we kind of like, oh man, this flight is 20 hours, and we get there and then we do the trip and like, this is going to be the longest week ever. And we come back and we're like, damn, that wasn't that bad.
Wasn't that bad?
Yeah.
I thought about that the other night when we went in 2016. We did that 2 week.
Yeah.
We went from here to
awesome.
Charlotte, to Hungary, to Dubai, to Kuwait, to Jordan, to Boston, and home. It was like 2 weeks. And during the time going into it, you're like, fuck, this is going to be brutal.
Yeah.
This is long. It's just so many flights. When you got back, you were like, you spent one day, you got some sleep, and you're like, okay, I could do that shit again.
I know, but I think I asked you at the end of the trip, I'm like, how much did we make?
We made a lot of money, though.
We did a lot of charity stuff, though, too, which was cool. But
military appearances.
But, it's like, hey, we're here. We're going to pick up, 5K, 10K,
You know what's crazy, though? I've noticed this. A lot of these guys now don't look at those short paydays and realize at the end of the year, they add up.
No, I mean,
$3,000 here, $5,000 here,
but
$2,000 here.
It's past that. It's the face-to-face.
Yes.
And we started this podcast because we wanted to do something.
We were bored. And
we weren't bored.
I'll say what you said.
We just said, what'd I say? I don't want to travel.
You said, I don't want to travel, and how can we make $1 million bucks?
Yeah.
And I said, a podcast. And you said you only do it if I did it. And I don't
well,
want
listen,
to.
I said I'd come back to Olympia. I think it would take $1 million.
So wait, I just thought about something. What if I got a GoFundMe started?
No, I don't want to take money from the fans.
Why not? Fuck it. If I can raise $1 million, will you do the Olympia?
I think so.
I'm going to go on whitehouse.gov and start a petition for Jay Cutler to do the Olympia. Would you do it for $1 million?
You know what? I'm not lying, bro. I would like to do this Arnold Classic in 8 weeks.
I'm gonna hit up. We're gonna hit up Arnold and say, put $1 million up, and Jay will do it. You'd get smoked though.
I don't know if I'd get smoked. Well, right now, but give me a year.
Well, that's.
I mean, if Derek Lunsford can go from 212 to be second at the Olympia in a year's time, dude.
Yeah, but your waist is as wide as your shoulders.
Well, no, it won't be if I get gassed up again. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. That would be kind of. Maybe we could have you and Ronnie come back.
Yeah, we did for a long time. We went back and forth. He kept calling me out, and I didn't want to at the time, to be honest.
He was calling you out like 3 years ago.
But you know what? All these other guys want to go and they want to fight each other.
I know.
Like, they want to box and everything else. Like, I don't want to box anyone. I want to, like, do what I'm good at, you know? And that's maybe getting on a bodybuilding stage.
I still, looking at this, Arnold, though, you know, this is something I was thinking about the other day. And, you know, bodybuilding's not a career. It's not.
It's not supposed to be.
But it isn't a career, period.
Yeah.
A career is something you can do your whole life.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity. Because every day you go train, you're one rep away from it ending. One injury. And so it's not a career. A career is like a lawyer. A career is a physician, a teacher, something you can do till you're 75. You could have a career-ending injury tomorrow, and or I shouldn't say career. You could have an injury tomorrow, and it's over.
Yeah.
You could have a medical condition. It's over. So it's not so when you're talking about the Arnold's an opportunity, this is an opportunity to make a shit ton of money. I mean, come on, even second place is 120 grand.
I know, but it's not just a day of making money. You're looking at
you're
it
making
short
money,
term.
but you're making money the whole year.
I know, because it's just another title or another placing. Like, even when I got fourth at the Arnold in '99,
how much
dude,
money did
I
you
was
get?
ecstatic. I got 15,000.
And you'd get 37.5 this year.
I got 15 grand, and to me, dude, I was jumping up and down for 15,000. Remember, I won the Night of Champions in 2000 after that, and I won 10.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't like I won more placing fourth at a contest than winning the Night of Champions, but the title meant a little bit. I mean, remember, the New York Pro is the third most tiered show, right?
Yeah. I think I've always said this, like, the Olympia is always going to be the pinnacle everybody wants to win, but there's something about watching Arnold Schwarzenegger walk across the stage and hand someone a trophy. That has to be an ultimate.
Yeah, and winning
bucket list.
Ohio is
Ohio, especially.
That's the original, right?
Yes.
I mean, we can talk about the other ones. We were in UK, and I know they have. Do they still have Brazil, or they had Spain? They had Spain.
They had
before.
Spain. They had South Africa. They had Australia.
Yeah, everywhere.
They actually had one in Hong Kong.
Really?
Yeah, they did 1 year. They had it in Hong Kong. It was at the airport. There's a big building near the airport. I remember because Cedric McMillan went over there and had to do the appearance for it.
So let's talk a little bit about the point system being removed. Is that going to make a difference?
No.
All right, because there's still too many shows, right?
That's what. Look, and I know I'm going to say this, and I'm sure people get angry at me, but it does nothing, because you're removing 3 people on the point system at the very back of the pack, because most likely, unless you're a big name that is just got second, most likely you're not someone contending to win. So they're going to remove the point system. So there was 37 people qualified. This year there would have been 34. It's not going to make a difference, because what's going to happen is you're going to remove those 3, and they're going to add 3 more pro shows.
I know, but the thing is we had a lengthy year, right? Yes. So let's back up a little bit. So
okay, let's say there's 4 shows less. You're still 30 plus qualifying.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
if 30 different. We just need guys to compete more.
Yes.
I mean,
so I mean,
Blessing competed in a few.
Yep.
I'm trying to think who else won a few.
Well, let's take this past. Let's just take this past year. I remember years ago, top 10 at the Olympia automatically requalified, but everybody except Sean Ray and the reigning Mr. Olympia would do those shows. Yeah. But the difference was Sean Ray every week was doing some appearance somewhere where he was making so much money that it wasn't worth him doing these other shows. Mm-hmm. So I've just noticed that a lot of these top guys, they don't do it. They just do the Olympia. If you take Derek Lunsford, for example, I don't know what his next plans are, but he turned pro. He did the Tampa Pro. He's only done the Olympia.
If you would have to guess, though, is he going to compete?
I would think all the top guys would want to be going after that 200 grand, considering they're in shape now, and it's that close.
I know, but is it up to them or their coaches that make the decision?
It should be up to them. It's not the coach's career; it's their career. Your coach gets you in shape. Your coach doesn't dictate what you do.
So when Chris Aceto was like working with me since I was a kid, I remember saying, "Hey, I think I'm going to do this show." He's like, oh, "Hell yeah, hell yeah!" He was never ever resistant about me doing a contest.
I hear that a lot. Like I'm not ever going to say names, but I hear this a lot where athletes will say, "Well, I need to talk to my coach to know if I can do that show." And I'll say to them, like, "What do you mean you talk to your coach? Your coach gets you in shape. This is your career. You do the shows you want. Now they can give you some advice. Hey, you're not, things aren't firing on all cylinders. Okay, you should take that. No different than me. Like, I manage people. I don't choose what they do. I say, this is what's in front of you. Here's the pros. Here's the cons. Here's my opinion. What do you want?
All right, so who's qualified for next year? So Hottie Chupin.
Hottie is.
Okay.
Derek Lunsford, Nick Walker, Brandon Curry, and Rami are. But Brandon Curry and Rami are former Olympia champions. So they're qualified for good.
Okay, so none of those guys will probably compete until the Olympia, right?
Well, the other person, the Butcher, he's qualified. He won.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
yeah.
he won Spain.
Yes.
So he's qualified. And so is, no, that was the first qualification. The guy that beat him in Romania.
The Iranian?
Yeah, he was for this year.
Or two.
So those 5 guys are qualified. Looking at this list, outside of Hottie, I don't see why any of these, I don't see why Rami wouldn't say, fuck this, I'm going to go get that Arnold. I want an Arnold, Ohio. Brandon could go get that's a $200,000 check, and that could be his 3rd Arnold. Nick Walker could get a 2nd Arnold, or Derek could get his 1st. Obviously, Hottie, I'm assuming Hottie would have done one a while ago if he could, but it was just so hard with visas. But I don't know if these guys will compete. I would hope we see them because
we'll know in 2 days.
We're going to know in 2 days. That's a hell of a battle. But even outside,
no, we won't know in 2 days because I guarantee you, even when the list comes out, someone jumps in.
I'm sure. People always do. It'll either be somebody.
How many guys will they allow to compete? 10 or 12?
I think they usually have 12.
Okay.
I think. Or sometimes they invite 15 because 1 or 2 always drops out because of health reasons or something wrong. But even if you look at outside of the top 5, like Samson, Hunter Labrada, Andrew Jack, William Bonnick, and Raphael, why wouldn't any of those guys do it? Why wouldn't
Andrew, I understand. He had a long year.
Yeah, well, I mean, he died for a full year, but Crizo,
yeah.
What place did he get? 11th?
He got 12th, I
12th?
think. Or something.
Ian got 11th?
Yeah.
Ian got 2nd 2 years ago. And I remember seeing Ian was, I saw some of his podcasts where he said they had some miscalculations. Well, it's like, well, shit, this is 7 weeks away. Go tweak it and go see if you can redeem yourself and get that win and get that big check too. So I would assume we're going to see a lot of these big names. I'm assuming it's going to be a super competitive.
Well, I'm going to be in the house, and I'm doing an expo visit, so I'll be present, which is really cool.
Yeah, we'll get a couple appearances lined up, and as they get closer, we'll announce what they are. But
how was your overall Olympia experience? I know you were super busy. You planted yourself at the Venetian. You got lucky because you took some space that I was going to utilize.
Yep. I stayed at the Palazzo because it was so close to the expo. For me, the expo is where the vast majority of the work happens. And I had so many appearances lined up between Brian doing his and Dana and Rob doing theirs and Trifecta and Fitburn and Celsius and New Tech. Those are 6 brands that they were all shifting around, and we had probably about 20 appearances at Trifecta. I had 4 at Celsius, 1 at New Tech, 2 at, and then Brian was popping around, and Dane and Rob were popping around, and Yarishna was competing, and we got you in and out. It was busy, but it was the first year that I felt like I was just in a bubble. I didn't know anything else that was going on. I knew nothing that was going on. I just kept my eyes on what I needed to get done in front of me. And I didn't stay at the hotel everybody was at. Everyone was at the Planet Hollywood. I stayed at this hotel. I got in, I got out. I did what I had to do. When the weekend was over, everyone was sick. so that was, then after the weekend was up,
the aftermath was crazy.
Everyone around me was sick. Jordan was sick, and Yarishna was sick, and Regan's still sick. So I lost my voice. And I don't know if I got I had a little baby cough, but I didn't feel horrible like everyone else. But it was overall, it was a great experience.
Huge success. I think it was one of their best ones they've ever done. I mean, like I said, the attendance was out of control.
I was excited for that. And I remember I talked to Dan Solomon shortly before that, and I said, I think it's going to be crazy. And I had no idea of any numbers or anything. And the trend was, we talked about this in 2020. We're like, dude, these expos could be fucked. Like some of them may never they might never come back. And we saw the expos do really bad for a while. And then last year, watching the Arnold, which was really busy, and then we ended up going to different expos throughout the year. And then the Arnold UK was really busy. And then I went to the Dubai Muscle Show, and it's the busiest I'd ever seen. And I thought, the Olympia is going to be crazy. And I think this year going into Arnold, I think this will be their busiest Arnold ever because people are over the sickness shit. And
we have LA Fit Expo on the 14th and 15th of January. Yeah.
I haven't spoke to them about their numbers, but it'll be busy. We got
downtown LA.
Yep, got you going, Regan, Phil Heath, Yarishna, Aaron Banks. I know a lot of other people. Brandon Hendrickson. There's a lot of other people that will be in attendance.
So tickets can be purchased at thefitexpo.com.
Fitexpo.com.
Make sure you guys check it out. I don't know if there's any discount codes, but I'm sure you can dig them up somewhere.
Yeah,
but
you'll have something posted on your social soon.
And we'll be heading out there. I'll be there doing meet and greets between my booth, Cutler Nutrition, and at Built.
So ILT. Yeah.
And we'll keep you guys informed. But we wanted to come on and just kind of talk a little bit about the experience, and then, listen, man, we'll be talking to them next week about the Arnold Classic because the list will be out, and who's the front runners for that contest. We'll get Milos in to do his little predictions.
We'll get Milos in so he can say stuff we won't say.
Yeah, the feedback, like I said, has been tremendous, guys. If you guys want to comment, we do have some guests that we want to bring on, and we would love your feedback. Maybe give some suggestions, because this podcast has climbed a lot faster than what we expected. You said that it was going to explode, and it's gone. I think we've had record numbers this month.
You know what it is? The reason I said that is, I listen to a lot of podcasts throughout the day. I'm in front of my computer
all day long. You listen to it. Yeah.
I listen to different podcasts. And it just, people like hearing stuff that gives them information, that gives them motivation, that gives them content that they can utilize in their life. And there's a lot of podcasts that don't do that. And the feedback that I've seen is, and I get messages every day on my Instagram. I see them on I'm sure you get them too. People they're excited that there's a positive podcast that's just putting out good content and putting out information. And when we have guests on, it's just a conversation. And I know people message me all the time, get this guy on, this guy, but we want to do it in person, and I know other people will say you need these guests. At the end of the day, Jay Cutler is a guest. Every time we do this podcast, that is a guest that every podcast in the world wants you on, from the biggest in the world to, the smallest. So it's good when we can bring people in to just have a conversation with you. But, if there's other people that you guys would like to have come on, we'd love it. And we want to branch out too.
This isn't just fitness. And, a lot of people ask me about like business and financial and whatever else. And, obviously I have goals for 22. I don't know if you kind of look at every year and you say, I want to accomplish this or that. Like I don't change my whole life and have New Year's commitments, because I reset every Monday. I talk about these are my tasks for the week. But for me, I'm coming into it. I'm going to be 50 in 23. Okay. So I'm doing obviously a fitness challenge, but at the same time, my mind has matured now. I'm very comfortable in life. Obviously, I've done very well. I've built a great career. But we all still have goals and aspirations. And I know some of your goals, right? I mean, whether it's property or, you want to visit. You want to visit more places, I think, more than you look at a monetary value of what life is. And I always talk about wealth. And when I say wealth, it's not wealth meaning like how much money you have in the bank or how much you earn. There's wealth of life. Yes. That we get a fulfilled feeling, right? So when you wake up in the morning and you're motivated because maybe you're helping someone or you're raising a family and you're giving to other people, because being an individual, like you can only get so much excitement out of things, right?
Yeah.
And we live for challenges. Someone like me, especially who I went from I got to conquer the Olympia. Like there's nothing bigger than that, right? So once you achieve the biggest status you can, when you can actually say I was the best in the world at what I did, okay, what challenges you after that, right? now do like with Schwarzenegger, he became the best bodybuilder. Then he became the top actor. And then he became a governor. And, you know, he became a real estate mogul. And now, of course, holds, is it questionably one of the biggest contests in the world, right?
Yeah.
There's certain goals we all reach, and it doesn't have a monetary value. It's a wealth of knowledge and comfort and ability. And like, there's so many things that go into that term wealth, right?
Yeah.
So I hope some of you guys have put together a mindset or a path or, you know, a surrounding to have opportunity, because opportunity is endless in this day and age. And I always say it starts with the relationships. I hope some of you guys learn something from our podcast, but at the same time, we thrive off everyone's comments,
of course,
everyone's input. Like, without your viewership, your responses, we couldn't be here.
Of course.
So we're so thankful for that. It gives me more motivation to keep going, because honestly, I'm not a talker. I don't like to talk much. You know, I don't pick up the phone and call people. And
you call me every day.
Yeah, but we talk. We have a lot to talk about. But I'm not a big. Like I said, I started as an introvert. So when you said to me, "Let's do this podcast," or I actually said to you, and you were like, "I don't want to do that," and I said, "Dude, you have to."
I don't like being on camera.
I know, but I said we can't travel forever, every single weekend. Now we're still gonna go. I mean, you call me and say, "Hey, I have this gig in wherever,
we go
halfway across the planet." I look at the opportunity to be like, okay, we might be able to meet someone there that, you know, would give us
always
a better relationship, right? So you guys are our backbone to this whole thing, and we appreciate you. We're going to stay with it. We've been consistent every week. We have a lot of back burner episodes right now, which is awesome. We've never had this yet in our podcast.
You know what's funny? If people knew how many times we launched something, like, when did you film that? Like fucking 2 hours ago.
Yeah, so just so you know, we have no script. We have no cheat notes, really. No. We have nothing. We just actually tried to put up our cheat notes on the screen. That's, you guys can't see right now. They can't see it, right?
No.
And Matt messed up the whole thing. So we started talking
for
3 minutes.
So your computer was lagging.
So our producer, if you guys saw our setup, I mean, it gets the job done. But what we've done is absolutely amazing. And it's because of you guys. You guys have kept me going. I wasn't sure if I was going to stay with this in the beginning, but we're here to stay now. So I just want to say I appreciate you guys. We've lost track of the episodes because we're just launching shit all over the place right now. But we appreciate you. And till the next episode, make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys share the video. And more importantly, give us a comment.
And again, if you want something for us to talk about too, we'll talk about whatever. Just post it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. Until next time.
We appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.